All right, class. So we are in week 4, and I just wanted to follow up with you on a couple of quick things as you begin working on your definition and description final drafts. So the first thing is I've looked through each of your working drafts, but I haven't given feedback yet. I'll do that today. Um, but a couple of things I just want to point out. Make sure that you look closely through this chapter that I posted to the homepage. Also, consider the other chapters you've read from our textbook about audience, purpose, design, content, persuasion, and so on and so forth. Um, you can include research in this assignment, but you are not required to. However, if you are including research, you want to make sure that you are using proper MLA or APA. So I noticed that some of you were listing websites that you, I guess, referenced during your assignment. And so when you list those at the end, you want to make sure you list it in proper MLA or APA, depending on what you're using. Also, throughout your text, if you paraphrase, you want to cite, and of course, if you use a direct quote, you want to cite. The other thing is for your definitions, if you're doing an extended definition and you have a definition sentence, you should create the definition sentence. It shouldn't be a definition that you get from the dictionary or some other source. You should create the definition sentence, and then you extend that based on your purpose and your audience. All right. The other one last thing. Also, when you're doing research, one thing you want to avoid is just going online. Putting in a search topic in Google and just selecting, random, for lack of a better word, websites. You want to be very intentional about the research you include in your documents so that you are credible. So so for example, consider using the library as a guide for seeking out research. Consider the source, because if you think about it, any person can go online, upload a website, but that doesn't really make it valid or reliable. So you want to think about those things as you're doing research for this, if you decide to. And that's something you just want to consider too, as we move into our next assignment, because that one will require research. All right. So a couple of quick things. So in this chapter, it covers 3 different topics: definition, description, and instructions. And I didn't include the part that talks about instructions because we're not doing that for our assignment. We're either writing an extended definition or a description. Here we had the meaning of both of these assignments. And then talks more about what definition is, and I'm not going to go through all of that. Here, you want to make sure you understand the purpose of your definitions. And later in this chapter, the author mentions considering audience and purpose, which, I can't iterate enough. And the reason why I keep reminding you all of that is because the audience and the purpose drives the content and design of your document. It drives the language use. It drives where you put information, the organization of it, the juxtapositioning of it, and so on and so forth. And so when we're writing, and we want to not just think of it as an assignment we need to complete for a grade, but one of the skills that we're learning in this class is writing for a purpose, writing for an audience. And so I'm really trying to push you to think beyond the classroom, and not necessarily considering me as your audience, but who would you be creating this for? Because it gives what you're writing, more meaning, gives it a purpose, a reason, gives you a reason for writing it other than a grade. All right, so we're not doing parenthetical definitions, though this information is good to know. You will include a sentence definition in your extended definition. And when you're writing your sentence definition, I want you to write it in this format. Identify the item, is in which category, and then what are the distinguishing characteristics that you are focusing on and that you will extend in your actual writing assignment. Here it gives more information about the guidelines. One thing about technical writing is I do think there's creativity in there, there's freedom of choice, but it is quote unquote technical, and so there are um, specific formats that are important to technical writing. And so, yes, so for your definition sentence, I'm looking to see that you formatted it in this way in particular. And then here's more information about writing an extended definition. Okay, so you want to make sure you read that. As a note here, there is no one way to extend a definition. Your analysis of your audience and purpose of your communication will help you decide which method to use. In fact, an extended definition sometimes employs several of the 8 techniques discussed here. And so that's something to remember. Graphics, when you think about your audience as, a document with 700 to 1,000 words alone going to appeal to your audience, or will graphics, help? Partitioning, that helps break up the content, and so on and so forth. Principles of operation. So we've got some diagrams here to help. So think about, all of these things as you're writing, okay? Deciding where to place your definition is going to be up to you, and again, based on what your purpose is. Here we have, a diagram that gives, more information of the greenhouse effect. And as you read through these paragraphs, you can see that each one has a particular purpose. And when I read your documents, the same should hold true. I'm looking to see that each has a particular purpose. And then it moves into writing descriptions. So when in your mind, decide whether or not you are writing a description of an object, a mechanism, or a process. And then they give more information here, and I'm not going to read that. Analyze your writing situation. Same thing, who you're writing to, what are you writing for, because that's going to, determine what you include. Make sure, as they note here, indicate clearly the nature and scope of the description, introduce the description clearly, provide appropriate detail, and conclude. And how do you decide what appropriate detail is? Well, it depends on who your audience is and what they already know and what information you want to actually focus on. And I'll let you read that. So some things to kind of ask yourself, and this will help you organize, I think, and help you decide what you want to include. First, you decide, are you describing an object or a mechanism or a process? And then maybe ask yourself these questions as you develop and organize your document. All right. And then same here. Here's some more tips. All right, so I'm just going to show you real quickly a couple of student examples. So this one is a description of the W.E.B. Du Bois program, I would consider her audience to possibly be, incoming freshmen or other students who are interested in learning more about the program. And it, includes academic excellence, leadership, and community service are the pillars of the program. It goes into more detail about those things. And then this just kind of gives more general information, and it's in a brochure format. And so the format and the content tells me, as a reader, who might be interested in this, or who she may have been writing to. This one, interval training, an extended definition of it. So we have here, what is interval training? Interval training is exercise and training program that combines blah, blah, blah. And you notice here her definition sentence follows the format that Markle tells us to follow in the definition sentence. Let me show you. Identify the item in the category. So if we go here, the item is interval training. The category is exercise and training program, or is an exercise and training program, that's what it should say. But and then what are the distinguishing characteristics of it? That combines high and low intensity timed intervals during a single workout. Okay, so be very intentional about creating a definition sentence that follows those guidelines. And then you see she segments here, and the partitioning helps break it down. These headings act as signposts for the reader, so it makes it easy for them to actually find the information. And so again, we want to think about audience and purpose. And if you read on, she's a personal trainer, and she's, explaining what interval training is and what she'd be doing if you hired her as the trainer. And I'll show you a couple more real quickly. This is a description of a process, the Texas legislative session process. And then she includes this image at the bottom. Now, I would recommend, I think it'd be more rhetorically effective if this image was moved up somewhere rather than the end, but that's, my preference. And then lastly, this one's called Scholars and You. And so here she uses dictionary.com, which I do not recommend, or you do when defining your extended definition, because again, it's your definition of the term. And the other thing is you want to make your definition specific to your audience and purpose. So we don't want just a general definition. We want definitions that are specific to what you are doing. Okay, so what's the big deal? And then we've got some diagrams, Venn diagram. Okay, and you see she uses a lot of compare and contrast. All right. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. Sorry this video is so long. Send me an email if you have any questions. Talk to you later. Bye.